Since the announcement of reciprocal tariffs by President Trump on April 2nd, the stock market plummeted, wiping out nearly $10 trillion in a matter of days. European and Asian markets also saw considerable drops, raising concerns about a potential global recession. The state that was hit the hardest was, of course, China. No surprises there. There was already a 20% tariff on China. Trump imposed a new 34% duty on Chinese goods and services on April the 2nd, meaning the newest batch of U.S. tariffs increased the import duty to 54% on all Chinese goods and services imported into the United States. But here's the fun part. The multipolar world has introduced a completely new dynamic. Listen to this. So as Trump imposed tariffs of 54% on China, 46% on Vietnam, and 20% on the European Union, their leaders decided to retaliate collectively. Vietnam just invited China and European leaders to meet to discuss trade. The leader of China, Xi Jinping, is meeting Vietnam's leaders in Hanoi on April the 14th, and next week Spain's PM Sanchez and the EU Commissioner are visiting Vietnam as well to discuss trade. Why this may impact the United States, you may ask? Well, China, the EU, and Vietnam run large trade surpluses with the United States. And so any duties imposed on imports will hit our wallets directly, rest assured. As many states around the world are preparing to retaliate against President Trump's reciprocal tariffs and this escalation in economic battles, China just hit back with additional 34% tariff on all U.S. goods in retaliation. These new tariffs are effective April the 10th. And effectively, Chinese authorities mirrored President Trump's action to show that it actually does take two to tango. In my recent conversation with Dr. Warwick Powell, which I greatly enjoyed, we discussed the U.S.-China conflict, and I highly recommend that you watch that brief conversation. It's only 30 minutes long, but Warwick explained that according to a recent research, China's economy could effectively decouple from the U.S. market in only 2 years. In a matter of 2 years, Chinese economy would decouple from the U.S. market. Now, what will the U.S. market be without those goods that we all enjoy that are imported from China? Those cost-effective goods, how much more expensive will the cost of living become in the United States? Definitely check out the interview here on my channel or at worldaffairsandcontext.com if you want to watch without breaks for commercials. As I mentioned before, reciprocal tariffs are a slippery slope that leads to a full-scale trade war that benefits literally nobody. It is a political tool, especially now when the IMF keeps warning year after year of global trade fragmentation that disproportionately affects emerging markets, it decreases foreign direct investment, and it hurts all countries involved. In addition to the new 34% trade tariff on all goods produced in the United States, China is also implementing 2 new measures that you may want to be aware of. One, export controls. So in response to President Trump's tariffs, China will restrict exports of 7 types of rare earth elements, which are crucial for a variety of technological and military applications. This move directly hits Trump's goal to acquire more rare earth minerals to turn the United States into a leader of global manufacturing of high technology devices. And the second point to make here are ongoing investigations. The Chinese government actually initiated investigations into several U.S. companies operating within its borders, including firms like DuPont. Associated Press reports China also filed a lawsuit with the World Trade Organization saying the U.S. tariffs were, quote, a typical unilateral bullying practice that endangers the stability of the global economic and trade order. Why does it matter, you may ask? Well, among many other things, these measures show that the trade conflict and escalatory moves can really be turned up if necessary, in response to measures that are meant to hurt interests of other sovereign nations. Unlike President Trump's assurances that his tariffs will motivate foreign nations to invest in the U.S. economy by building factories and by investing into our infrastructure here, foreign actors are now more likely to say, you know what? That's enough. We've had enough of this bullying. We have quite a few alternatives now, and we don't really need to work with a bully who keeps wanting to restrain us and restrain our economic development. This is clearly evidenced by Vietnam's invite that was accepted by China and the EU in a matter of hours to discuss trade. This is such an unlikely alliance, if you will. Alliance is, of course, a strong word, but it is an unlikely group to get together so quickly. But it does show how different the emerging multipolar world is, and the shift to it is only accelerating. Some geopolitical commentators claim that tariffs now serve as a leverage to renegotiate terms based on so-called America First policy. However, tariffs are a coercive measure, and given failed economic policies such as sanctions that actually drive countries away and give them reasons to focus on the development of alternative financial settlement platforms, tariffs appear to be just another nail in the coffin, if you will, of America's global stance as the world rejects coercion and violence that has been consistently escalating. Now, following China's announcement of mirroring Trump's policies and imposing a 34% duty on the US goods, here's what President Trump did. He took to social media to double down on his efforts. He said, China played it wrong. They panicked. The one thing they cannot afford to do. Okay, as much as President Trump would like to restart manufacturing back home, tariffs will not accomplish it. Tariffs alone cannot accomplish it. In addition to tariffs, his policies would already have to actively support a wide variety of actions, such as creating highly skilled professional workers here in the United States to take over production and manufacturing. We need engineers, we need R&D professionals, we need a strong push to support academic achievement on all levels, starting with grade school. That is a considerable undertaking given where our U.S. education system stands today. We need to invest in modernized infrastructure. It requires billions in investments, and not from foreign countries who seek to take profits abroad and may bring their own professionals to run these companies that they build here. Again, Warwick did a great job discussing a full list of policies that should already be announced to the American public and being in the process of implementation along with tariffs to support the push to revive American manufacturing. Instead, tariffs create an opportunity window for Washington lobbyists, and this is going to be a new discussion here on my channel with a guest in the coming days, so make sure that you stay tuned if you're interested. It is a very little known fact, but one that does deserve attention. As always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to show your support, like, subscribe, and share. Make sure that you are a subscriber to worldaffairsandcontext.com for additional content, and I will see you back here soon. Bye for now.